It's been a while on the channel since I've done a dedicated budget PC for a dedicated video game, and recently on PC, The Crew 2 has been released. Now, minimum spec requirements state that you need an i5-2400S and a GTX 660 or greater. And what we've got here on the desk is something that's a previous generation to the i5-2400. However, it is going to be a Xeon X3440, and you can overclock these higher and they will perform better than an i5-2400. So hopefully the CPU will do well in this game. But also for the graphics card, we've got here a deal on a GTX 780. We picked this up for 120 Australian dollars, which would equal 88 USD. And then for the other deals here, they're very different. So this was a direct deal. I only got this part for the money. Some of these other deals I have to pro-rata them, because something else that's going on here on the channel is that I'm going out getting these crazy deals that get so many different parts for a set amount of money. This right here was a case, cooler, and power supply that I actually picked up in a 2PC deal that I got for 100 Aussie dollars. However, I'm just picking out these three components from that deal and I'm pricing it up around 30 AUD or 22 US dollars. Now right here in the middle is a motherboard, SSD, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and an i5-750. We got this in a massive deal that I picked up for 700 Aussie, which included 4 RX 470s, also a massive P3 case, 3 different motherboards, different CPUs, over 40 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. But this here, I'm going to be pricing this up at 80 Aussie dollars or 58 USD. So this brings the whole total before we add in the X3440 to 169 US dollars. But since the X3440 costs 20 US dollars from AliExpress, we're going to throw that on top and make it 189 US dollars for this budget build, or around about 255 Aussie. Though there is just one problem with all these components, and that is that they're a little bit dirty. So we're going to give them some tech yes lovin', and then we're going to run the Crew 2 on this thing. Welcome back to Tech Yes City. We've got right here the power supply, the motherboard, and the memory, and the i5-750 all set up because I want to see if they boot up before we put it into the build. Especially the power supply and motherboard. They're a real pain to pull out if everything's set up and then you find out something's faulty. So we're just going to pre-test this, make sure it works, and then if we're all good to go, then we're going to save a lot of time. We're going to know that our whole system works. But another thing as well is someone has decided to do cable management with electrical tape. Usually you use this just for covering up solder joints, but it looks really bad and tacky. So we're going to take that apart. So that's as far as we're going to go with taking all this tape off. Whoever put it on really went to lengths to make sure it wasn't really coming off. And of course, using a Stanley knife is actually risky as well because we could end up cutting the wires too. So we'll try and just utilize it there. We'll see how it looks in the build because we have unsheathed most of these ends as well, which you kind of need, especially on this end, for the flexibility. Though now we're also getting a signal out of it, so that is really good news. It's time to give this thing a tech yes cleanse. So we'll just pause mid yes cleanse here, and we've got first time here trying a toothbrush, and I found this when I was cleaning up the studio. I was like, I always intended to use one of these, but this was the perfect scenario where we had this little grit in just really weird places, and a bit of WD-40 combined with the toothbrush really made this thing stand out and look like new. So this will be another tool in the inventory when it comes to a yes cleanse. So it's now the next day and this CPU is actually doesn't work anymore. It's dead. And the sad thing is it was working yesterday. I had it overclocked to 4 gigahertz in this computer and everything was going absolutely fine. And then it just died. And this is the second time this has happened, and I'm not really going to say anything more because I don't want to tarnish any brand names and what I think it is. as I do need to gather more research. But what we've got in here at the moment, i5-750, we've gone back to the 4-core, 4-threaded CPU, and it's now at 4 gigahertz, but the problem is it's throttling. So we're going to take this apart, we're going to delete it, and we are going to put some GC Extreme on both the die and the core and see if that fixes the problem. And we're now at 4 gigahertz and we're peaking out at around 70 degrees. So it's much better than before where we're actually throttling. So that's a huge difference. And we're doing it on a real budget cooler as well. So we just finished playing The Crew 2 on the HotBOX. And it was as expected. The Xeon X3440 4 cores 8 threads would have been perfect. Unfortunately, guys, all times on this game. Now, unlike The Crew 2 where the CPU was more strained than the GPU, PUBG at 1080p high settings was actually straining the GTX 780 more than it was the CPU. So the i5-750 at 4 gigahertz was absolutely fine in combination with this graphics card. So that's about it. Nice little combo. Of course, as I said before, I would prefer having that 4-core 8-threaded CPU at 4 gigahertz. I thought that would have been a better balance. But sometimes shit does happen, and here today we just came into some bad luck, something that's unexpected that happened. I will try and gather more evidence, but if you know anyone who's had a D-lid and it's worked and then suddenly it stopped working, then let me know in the comment section below, or tell them to send me an email so I can sort of investigate it a little bit more. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's budget build. All the parts, as I said in the intro, they came out really cheap. This was under 200 US, even with that failed CPU on top, and it came in just a little bit over 250 Aussie dollars. So honestly, The Crew 2 was almost half the cost of this PC, and that's just the game. So if you're into free-to-play games, something like this in the background would represent phenomenal value for money. And that's what it's all about when you build used price performance. You pick up those dirty, old, underappreciated parts, you give them some tech, yes, lovin', and then they come out looking really good and also performing really well too. I was actually pretty surprised. That little Cooler Master cooler as well managed to keep this thing at 4 gigahertz. But keep in mind, when we did delid, we went from throttling to then 70 degrees, which I was really impressed with the temperatures after we did that. So I can recommend doing it. Just be very careful which thermal paste you use. I'm probably just gonna stick to GC Extreme both under the IHS and above it when we match the cooler to the IHS, because it does give out some phenomenal numbers. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button. If you have any questions about the PC parts featured in today's video, then be sure to drop a comment in the comments section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But as you guys know, these are usually one-time deals. I can't replicate these deals. And sometimes you're like, man, how does he get a GTX 780 for like 90 US dollars? That's just hustling. That's part of the game. I'll put some links in the description below if you want to search on eBay, but you're generally not going to get as good as a deal as someone that just wants to quickly offload the parts for some cash. And with that said, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.